Okay, everyone. I'd like to start off with an introduction to the reading section of the SAT. All right. There will be some major changes between the old SAT and the new SAT. One of the main changes is that all of the questions in the reading section are passage-based, which means that there are no sentence completion questions to worry about. And the types of subjects in each passage covers are the same in all the tests. All right. The new critical reading is organized in this way. There's one passage covering US and world literature. Two passages dealing with history and social studies. And two passages dealing with science. And for the science questions, there will be charts and graphs. All right, so now let's start talking about strategy in terms of how to answer the problems. Okay, so first step, skim the problems. Before you start reading the actual passage, you need to come in with an idea of what the problems are and how you're going to solve them. This will make your reading go by a lot faster and you can answer the questions faster too. Because if you don't know what you're looking for, then when you're trying to answer the questions, you'll just have to read the passage again and it'll slow you down. The questions will usually tell you exactly where to find the answer, and it makes it a lot. And then you take that information and just mark it in the problem. Just mark it in the passage. You also underline any vocabulary that's shown that is asked about in the questions, such as if it's asking, say, like, what does the word adjust mean in sentence 2? You'll just, in line 2, just go to line 2 and underline that word so you will pay attention to it when you read through the passage. Step 2, read. Read the passage. Go through, underline key information which may help you underline key information which may help you answer questions that are about main idea, main topic, things like that. What you want to do is, underline key information in box proper nouns, dates, time indicators. Because you want to be, when you're answering the questions, you want to be able to come back and see where all the important information is. As you're reading, if you come across a problem that you've already marked from step 1, you will want to read 2 sentences above and 2 sentences below where you find the information in the passage in order to get the necessary context in order to answer the question correctly. After you've finished reading the passage, go back through the questions and answer them. You want to be saving the main idea problems for last. Number 5, you want to go through the answer choices to see if any are definitely wrong so you can eliminate them. You want to underline the parts of an answer choice that separate it from the other answer choices so you can compare what's different between them in order to find the correct answer. And also you want to eliminate all the answers that are even half wrong, because if there's anything wrong in it, it's definitely not the answer. Sixth step, you want to be looking for tone shifts within the passage. Any tone shifts should occur in the first and last sentences of paragraphs, or first and last paragraphs within a passage. And if you're confused about any tone shifts within a passage, you can refer back to the first and last sentences, which will help you get an idea of what each paragraph's about and what is different between them. Number 7, you will want to pace yourself. In the old SAT, these sections were broken up into small chunks, 25, 30 minutes about. This new one is 53 questions in 1 hour. So about 1.25 questions per minute. Scratch that, 1.25 minutes per question. So you'll want to make sure you're working at an adequate pace. Constantly be looking at the clock and make sure you have enough time, and also that you're not rushing through. You don't want to make any silly mistakes because you could have gotten if you just went back and found hard evidence. Okay, now we're going to go into some tips about actually answering the questions. The most important thing you can do is read the entire answer choice. The answer choices must be 100% correct to be the right answer. Again, if half of it is true, the whole thing is incorrect. And also, there are some telltale signals that an answer is incorrect. Usually, answer choices that include these will include absolute language, extreme language, and intensifying language. If you see anything that is absolute language, such as saying all, never, none, only, must, things like that, it's probably not the correct answer. Also, things like extreme language, derision, defile, euphoric, global, veneration, disparage, it's probably not going to be that extreme. It's probably not the correct answer. Intensifying language, too, more, extremely, seldom, most, things like that. You will also want to you'll want to watch out for information that is correct but doesn't answer the particular question that is being asked. In the SAT, the question only pertains to the section of the passage that is related to the question. That's why it's very helpful to read the passage as you answer the questions, because all the questions are in the order of the passage. If you look for an answer in the wrong place, you will get the question incorrect. And what you want to do also is eliminate answers. Just eliminate the answers that you know are incorrect. Cross them out and underline what makes the answer incorrect so you can show yourself that it is not the right answer. If the question mentions multiple lines, read the whole paragraph. This can give you the necessary context that will make it easier to choose the correct answer. Another important thing you want to do is leave the general questions for last, such as main idea, main topic, what is like the author's purpose. If you can't find it in a particular piece of the passage, you'll want to leave it for last. Then, after you've answered the other questions, you can look in the first and last paragraphs, introduction, and the topic sentence. And this will help you to answer the question. Also, you would have read many of many sections of the passage over again, which can also help you answer these last questions. If you come across a main idea/tone question and you're stuck between two answer choices that seem very similar, you'll probably want to choose the one that most closely matches the way that the passage actually states a particular fact. All right, here's a very important piece of information. This is the difference between the old SAT and the new SAT. Before, there were vocabulary questions which were out of context, completely unrelated to the passage. Now, every vocabulary question comes from within the passage. So therefore, you will definitely be able to rely on your context clues to figure out the meaning of a word. This means that you have to read the sentence or sentences around a word in order to derive that context. Alrighty, so now let's get into a special category of questions called category of passages called double long passages. All right. Mark questions in both passages and label questions. So just like before, you want to be reading through the questions, going into the passages, and if you see a page number, just like put a little tick or put a little star next to where it appears at that line number. If you see that the questions ask about a particular word or the context of a word, you will want to underline that word. And also, as you're going through the questions, you'll want to say like, yeah, this one's passage 1, this one's passage 2, this one pertains to both. Okay, then after you're done marking all the questions and marking where they appear in the passage, you will want to read passage 1. You will want to read passage 1, and just like how we were solving the questions before, you want to underline anything important as you're reading. You want to be boxing proper nouns, dates, and time indicators, just like before. And then answer passage 1 questions. You just read it, it's fresh on your mind. You go through the passage, answering the questions as you go. You know that everything's in order of the passage. So if you've already passed information that a question's already asked about, don't go back before that. The answer won't be there. Again, answer the questions. Alrighty, now you've answered all the questions you can that come from passage 1. Now answer both questions. The questions that need information from both passages in order to be answered. It's useful to go through them all right now without reading passage 2 yet, because again, passage 1 is still fresh on your mind. You may not be able to answer any questions, but you can definitely eliminate some answer choices based on information that you've just gained from passage 1. All right, step 5. Now we read passage 2. And answer those questions. Self-explanatory. We read passage 2 now, underlining, boxing, going through the questions and finding evidence for everything. If you can't convince yourself with a quotation from the passage, you need to be looking for a better answer. Convince yourself with textual evidence. Now, finish the both questions. Now you have information from both passages. You have more than enough information to finish all the questions. You want to do it that way so you can make sure that you don't make any mistakes by accidentally forgetting what was in a passage, etc., etc. Now let's get into some general tips. of how to get a good score on the reading section of the new SAT. We will name this segment tips. All right. Tip number 1, for every 9 questions, you have 11 minutes to complete them. If you remember this, you might be able to pace yourself better as you're trying to answer these questions. Like I said, unlike the previous SAT, the sections are no longer broken up into smaller sections. You will have to be able to pace yourself and make sure that you can answer all the questions within the allotted time. All right. Here's another difference between the old SAT and the new SAT. The new SAT has no penalty for guessing on questions. If you get the wrong answer, you will not lose any points. So there's no harm in just, if you really don't know an answer, just pick one letter that you will use as your guessing letter and use that for every question you don't know. You're bound to get one right at least. So yeah, don't never leave an answer blank, because then there's a 0% chance that you'll get it right. All right. If you're having trouble choosing an answer, it may be helpful for you to look at the question and think of how you would answer that question, and then use that and match it up to the closest answer choice that makes sense. All right, 4th tip. If you're running out of time, you can look through the questions ahead of time and try to determine what the easy questions are and what the harder questions are. If you ideally, of course, you would want to answer every single question, but if you really don't have time, you just want to get as many points as you can before the time runs out. So you can triage them. Say, like, these are the easiest questions to answer. Let me go answer these first. These will probably be like vocabulary questions, I guess, depending on what you're good at. But the questions that may take longer will be like main event, author's purpose, which require reading the whole passage. So if you can find a question that just asks for a particular part, or vocabulary, how is the word used in this context, these may be faster to answer and you can get as many points as you can. In general, there will be one fiction passage, a couple of nonfiction passage, and one historical document. And historical documents are usually the hardest, so if you don't have time, you might want to skip that and go on to an easier passage. Okay. And tip number 5, don't spend too much time on one question. This is a very, very important last tip. Like I said, this new SAT requires more than ever that you pace yourself and give yourself the time you need to answer the questions. Every question is worth the same amount of points, whether you spent 30 seconds on it or 5 minutes trying to figure it out. So if you have a question that you think might take a long time, just put a star next to it and come back to it later. If you do run out of time in the end, you'll want to take that letter in your head that you are using for all your random guesses and put that down. Usually you would have gotten a lot more points than you would have if you spent more time musing over the question that you don't know. Of course, you don't always want to randomly guess. If you have the time, you will want to go through the question, go through the passage, eliminate any answer choices that you know are not true, and take the most educated guess you can out of the remainder. All right, well, I'm glad that you joined me here today, and I hope to see you here on Skybound. And I wish you luck on your upcoming SAT exams.